Good morning, everyone. Well, my name is Erin Sinnaeve, and I am a nurse practitioner, a member of the JIVINITI Coalition, and the co-lead investigator for Project GAIA. I am so excited about today's conversation. We have Dr. Joel Fuhrman joining us. Before I bring him on, I want to just tell you a little bit about him. Joel Fuhrman is a board-certified family physician, a 7-time New York Times bestselling author and nutritional researcher who specializes in preventing and reversing disease through nutritional and natural methods. Through his practice, Eat to Live retreats, books, television specials, Dr. Fuhrman shares his life-saving nutritional protocols with people around the world. His work and discoveries are published in medical journals, and he is involved with multiple nutritional studies with major research institutions across America. He serves as the president of the Nutritional Research Foundation. His 5 PBS shows have raised over $70 million for PBS, and his most recent book is Eat for Life, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes. And he's also got a great podcast with his daughter Jenna called Eat to Live, which is so much fun and educational, and I love listening to it. So let me just bring him on. Let me see if I can find him. Let's see. Try again here. Invite. I see that he's available, so we'll see. I know it's early there. Very, very excited about this. So let's see. There we go. Let me try one more time here. This happened the other day too when I was bringing on someone. It shows that you're here. Let me see. There we go. Let's try this way. Accept. I see you're here. Let me just keep working on this for a second.
I think we're good.
There we go. I think we got it.
I think you got me. I could see you talking, but you couldn't see me.
I know. I'm sorry. I don't know what's happening, but I see you. Thank you so much. I can't tell you how honored that we are here at JIVINITI and to have you here. On a personal note, I just wanted to tell you right up front, Eat to Live was the first book. My husband picked it up when he was at my daughter's soccer practice. He was in Whole Foods. He's like, oh, this looks like a great book. He read it and he's like, this is it. We're nutritarians. Let's go. So I just had to tell you, this is like a dream and an honor to be here with you today.
Terrific.
So anyway, thank you again. So I'll let you go ahead and just let's start off by you kind of telling me a little bit about your story as far as how you kind of got involved in nutrition.
It just started with my family because my father was overweight and sickly, and he started picking up some books. He started with a book called You Don't Have to Be Sick by Jack Duntrop, written in the 1950s. And then, so I started reading, and I read all of Dr. Shelton's work, Dr. Herbert Shelton's works from the American Natural Hygiene Society in the written in the 1950s and 60s. So my father turned around his health, and I started reading books when I was a competitive athlete. I was on the world figure skating team. And so in my teenage years, I was already into nutrition, reading books on nutrition and applying it in my family. And my father was losing weight, and I was just, as an athlete, just wanted to not get sick and have good stamina. And then, and then of course, it took me till I was like 27 years old. I always was passionate about nutrition, and was working in my family's shoe business after my skating career ended. And then I started dating my wife, who wasn't my wife then, and she was going to go to medical school. She was applying to medical school. And I was, saying, doctors just don't, doctors just give people poisons anyway. It doesn't get anybody well. They just had, it's all a matter of what you eat, and it's just like giving people a drugs when they hit their hand with a hammer to make
Right.
it feel better. It doesn't make it get better.
Right.
So we started talking, and she said, well, if you're so passionate, why don't you go to medical school? And I said, I was thinking of going to medical school, but I thought it was too late for me because I already graduated from college. I didn't have the prerequisites. So with her knowledge and with her encouragement, we got married, but I realized there were postgraduate pre-med programs, and I went back to Columbia to get all the pre-medical requirements at 27 years old. So I didn't go to medical school till I was 29 years old. It was a kind of a second, a later in life choice that this would be really exciting to be a doctor specializing in nutritional medicine and learn with all the things I've known and seen and observed can change the face of healthcare in America. So I went to University of Pennsylvania School of Medicine with a specific intent to be a physician specializing in nutritional medicine. So I made that decision before I went to medical school. Mm-hmm. And then I've obviously been very lucky, you could say, very rewarding career, and I'm very blessed to be able to have this opportunity to affect so many millions of people in a positive way.
You really have. I mean, I know you've changed our life, and I know you continue to change people's lives and improve their health through your nutritarian diet. So I know you created the nutritarian diet to prevent disease, promote longevity. Can you talk a little bit more about your focus on micronutrients, optimizing health, and how you coined the term nutritarian, and kind of explain what G-bombs are? It's one of my favorite things.
Okay, I can do that in a few hours.
I know. I'm sorry. That's a lot in one question, but
yeah, I'm sure. Well, I wanted to design a diet that would be a pinnacle of what people could shoot for, and when I wrote the book Eat to Live back in the early 2000, it was first published in 2004. They wanted me to make it more, less strict, more not so radical. And I said, well, if I do that, I'll be selling out all these people who have illnesses that want to recover. And I'll be selling out people who want to know what's best to maximize their lifespan, longevity, and their health. And I don't want to do that. I want to design what's ideal for people. Because, anything less than ideal is hurting people and hurting some people. If you have a diet, let's say, that's a good diet, better than the American diet, even like a Blue Zone diet. Blue Zone's a pretty good diet.
Right.
But you're following a Blue Zone diet, you're still causing needless deaths and premature medical problems because the diet has certain drawbacks. It's not ideal. If you use modern nutritional science to go for all the best parts of each Blue Zone and take out the part that's weakening it. Mm-hmm. And so that's what a nutritarian takes obviously the most longevity promoting, most powerful anti-cancer foods and puts it together in a dietary portfolio with the right, you could say inclusion and also the wide diversity of nutrients that humans need to maximize immune function. Because there's no diet style that looks at all the features of including all these anti-cancer foods together that work synergistically. It's great to add orange vegetables in your diet. Beans are a longevity promoting food. Mm-hmm. Green cruciferous vegetables are so important to prevent cancer and support the immune function. And, we can look at all these better foods, but there's no, let's say, pattern with dietary patterns that puts all those best, most anti-cancer foods together in a dietary portfolio and makes it taste great. So we're incorporating, we're not doing only looking at the glycemic index, only looking at nutrient density, only looking at effects of IGF-1, only looking at toxicity, hormonal effects, nutritional variety, the microbiome, the right balance of fatty acid, the right anti-inflammatory effects. We're looking at all the factors, a comprehensive view of all the factors that affect human health and longevity, and incorporate into a dietary model. And almost all the plant-based diets are lacking in some aspect. And also the recognition that when you do move towards 90% plant-based, 95% plant-based, 100% plant-based, is as you make your diet more vegan, then you're lacking in some nutrients that are suboptimal for optimal longevity and brain health in later life. And people aren't comfortable saying that a vegan diet is not optimal. And if it's not optimal, for example, if your diet is deficient in DHA, or they're not optimized in zinc, or you're missing enough iodine, or you have DHA, your omega-3 index is too low due to DHA deficiencies, then you've sacrificed some potential health. And I've, in my career, because I've gotten involved with the vegan movement through the American Natural Hygiene Society, which is now the National Health Association, I was involved with them when I was in my teenage years, before I even became 20 years old. And my mentors and the people I looked up to, those doctors who were advocating whole food, plant-based diets on fruits and nuts and vegetables, they almost all developed neurologic problems as they aged. Either became demented or developed Parkinson's. Dr. Shelton developed Parkinson's, Dr. Sidwa developed Parkinson's, Dr. Vetrano got demented, they all got some severe illnesses with their brains. And me being the physician at that time, caring for a large number of these people through the Natural Hygiene Society, the American Vegan Society, found a lot of the people that had low omega-3 index, poor DHA exposure, and neurologic deficits in later life. And I didn't want to have the people following my advice have those problems and develop those same problems. So it's perfecting those old-time nutritional advice, seeing the lack in the nutritional, what happened to these people as they aged and what were they lacking. It wasn't just B12. So perfecting the diet, taking out the elements that weren't scientifically documenting, utilizing that aspect of nutrient density, but it's not all about caloric density and nutrient density. There are other factors involved here too. So putting together a comprehensive program that will maximize human longevity and human immune function, because anything that's really good but not great is still going to cause some people to potentially could develop a problem in later life. So I wanted to really, as much as we can, perfect this ideal that people could follow something to maximize their health. And of course, the word nutritarian means a diet that's designed to have the right nutrient density and nutrient exposure, so leaves no stone untouched that's going to benefit people. So they have full confidence. Yes. They have optimal levels of all nutrients humans need to maximize their health.
Yes, I love that. And I really appreciate how you talked about, people even on a plant-based diet can develop dementia. I have a lot of Alzheimer's in my family and mental health issues in my own family. So just following you, I'm like, I need to make sure I'm getting this plant-based omega and getting the zinc and getting all of the other, in addition to the B12.
That's right. It's because, some people they'll argue illogically that because a plant-based diet protects against dementia, and because most people with dementia are getting it because of lack of phytochemicals and antioxidants in colorful plants, the lack of colorful plants and the exposure to the standard American diet with its high amount of processed foods and animal products is the cause of most dementia. But that doesn't mean a person eating all those beneficial foods, are, even if they're at lower risk of dementia, they still have a risk of getting dementia should their omega-3 index fall too low. Right. And we want to strive for people to have an omega-3 index above 5, because there's been numerous studies that all corroborate each other, showing that a higher omega-3 index is linked to longer lifespan. And of course, we're talking about lower levels associated with cognitive impairment and brain atrophy, brain shrinkage. So there's many different causes of dementia, and we have to make sure that we we address every one of them to ensure that we're in great shape. If we're going to live to be 100 years old, we want to have our full mental faculties to join us with that on that journey there.
Fantastic. In your newest book, Eat for Life, which I have right here, I noted that you had a few just different dietary tweaks and menus that you recommend for those with conditions such as diabetes, autoimmune. You talk about intermittent fasting. What are some of the reasons for these little differences?
Well, as you can imagine, many people who jump into this high nutrient, this form of nutritional excellence, they've eaten so unhealthfully the whole first half of their life that we want to maximize their ability to reverse their disease first and get off those medications. So maybe the diet style for a person with diabetic who's metabolically challenged might be even a lower glycemic diet than even I'm eating. Because maybe I'm eating more fruit and I'm putting some dates in my dessert a couple times a week, or I'm doing even that. So I'm even making the diet more glycemically favorable to get them off their drugs and get them to a non-diabetic phase even quicker. And with some people with autoimmune illnesses, for example, we know that their immune system is not going to function normally until their levels of phytochemicals in their tissues get high enough. And we could measure that with the skin carotenoid score, and so other ways we could measure the level of tissue storage of nutrients and antioxidants.
Okay.
And basically, it takes a person about 6 to 9 months to get their tissue scores of nutrients high enough for the immune system to function optimally. What I'm saying right now is that if you have an autoimmune disease, or you have prostate cancer or early stage breast cancer, we don't want to wait 6 to 9 months to get your levels of tissue scores up there to where mine are. So we want to incorporate, let's say, juices, so they can actually eat more vegetables without filling up their stomach with too much fiber, because they don't have an appetite to eat all those vegetables. So we'll give them some in juice form to speed the rate at which we're getting the tissue levels of nutrients higher. And I'll make this juice with 1/3 cruciferous like bok choy, and 1/3 lettuces, and 1/3 carrot and beet, and they'll drink maybe a 6-ounce glass of this twice a day or something. So we can get them up to a point where their nutrient stores are higher at the beginning. So then we can get them off to start to taper the medications, usually at the 2 or 3 months point where they start to feel better. We can start to reduce medication slowly. It speeds up the process of getting them well. Eventually they'd probably get there, but some people need to have that, to be brought to that spot quicker. So there's a couple of other things, because some people with various conditions don't tolerate certain foods well due to the genetic tendency towards those conditions, like lupus patients. Shouldn't eat alfalfa sprouts. There's all kinds of little things like that we've learned over the years, where certain tweaks in the diet might be better for some people.
It's really helpful, because I know that in my own practice, I recommend the nutritarian diet to my patients and the G-bombs, but it's not, but my patients with autoimmune, it does seem to take a little bit longer for them to kind of get over the hump. They're like, I don't know, you said I was going to start feeling a lot better, and they don't. So it's nice to have this additional insight and options for people. So
yeah, I can remember a case where a woman had a severe case of lupus. By the way, I had a person with lupus, a young woman who was on the National Renal Transplant list with a creatinine of 4.2. And while she was waiting for a new kidney, her creatinine came back to normal, to 0.8, and she got rid of her lupus.
What? That just gave me chills. That's amazing.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Oh my
From renal failure to normalcy.
Wow. That's crazy. That's impressive.
Yeah, and then then this one woman with lupus, after a year of following my program, wasn't better yet after a whole year. And I felt, because of the fevers and how she was with the inflammation, I felt, well, maybe you should go back on Plaquenil and methotrexate. Maybe it's just not working for you. And I was a little bit discouraged. She wasn't getting better in a year. I was a little concerned, because at that point in my career, too, you don't want to take a chance with anybody.
Sure.
And so she didn't listen to me. She came back to me 6 months later, and I said, what happened? Did you go back to the rheumatologist? Did you go back on the drugs? She said, no, I just kept doing it, and now I'm totally well. So at some point, I had given up on her before she gave up on herself, and she really got well. Another case that got totally well, but it took more than a year for her to turn around. But now that's why now I give them a little more things to speed up the process. You know what I mean?
That's amazing. Oh my gosh. I love those stories. And it's life-changing for people. So just a couple more questions. I just want to talk briefly about COVID-19. So we know a couple things. We know that some ethnic and minority groups have been disproportionately affected by COVID-19 for a variety of reasons. And we know that those that have chronic disease, or chronic lifestyle disease especially, are at higher risk for poorer outcomes. Why do you think these differences exist in these outcomes for both these populations?
I appreciate that question. Let me start by saying, I think the way the medical profession addresses that and talks about that has some racism in it. And I want to bring it up front, because they do that in medical school. They taught us, too, that Black Americans have higher risk of prostate cancer and early life stroke. And they didn't define it because of the limited food exposure and the stress and the lack of, they made it seem like it was because some genetic weaknesses in Black Americans or people. So, right. And it's just totally untrue. Yep. I went back to the literature and studied this in detail, and there's no genetic weaknesses in people who have darker skins because they're more susceptible to COVID or strokes or prostate cancer. It's all about their dietary and environmental exposure. And what I'm saying, if we look at Caucasians with the same dietary exposure, they have the same weaknesses and increased risk of COVID and increased risk of early life cancer and dementia. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, I wrote a book on this called fast food genocide, showing that after the Civil War, Black Americans, there were more centenarians, and Black Americans had better health than the white Americans, Southerners did, because they ate more vegetables grown in gardens. And the white Americans were eating more of the 3 M's, molasses, corn, maize, and meats like pork. And they developed more pellagra and more, of course, what I'm saying right now is, let's first say this, right, that where you live, it's not your race, your color, or your creed, it's where you live, the food availability, and the customs that have, of the food that you're fed by your family, that affects your risk of COVID, not the color of your skin.
Yeah.
And so that I want to make so that we all have, and it's so critical that people hear this, because everyone has an opportunity not to die. We have these advances in nutritional science now that enable us to win the war on cancer, and nobody's taking advantage of it, and not have heart attacks and strokes or dementia, and not to die of COVID. So we can wipe out COVID deaths if we wanted to. But people don't like this message. They're looking for a magic pill so they can still continue their addictive habits. And so even a vaccine is better than everybody changing their diet. But it's not. And I wrote, actually, in my book, Superimmunity, I wrote about the fact that infections are going to get worse, spread through the world more quicker, and be more dangerous in upcoming years as the world gets more populated, and as antibiotics select out for more dangerous bacteria and viral infections get more targeted. So, but in any case, so we know this is not going to be the last potential epidemic in human history. There's going to be more in our future, and the best way to protect ourselves is through an excellent immune system as a result of excellent nutrition. And it's so unfortunate that this is not the message that's heard anywhere in the media. And there's nobody out there walking the streets of New York and Los Angeles thinking about improving their health, getting their, and it just shows you how addictive the American diet is, that nobody wants to even discuss the elephant in the room. Yeah. And the elephant in the room is the major cause of COVID and the major cause of climate change is the diet people are eating. Well, maybe not, not going to argue whether it's the major cause or a significant cause, but it's still a significant cause of both these things,
For sure. Well, yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why, we know there's mountains of nutritional research out there, and we're starting to see a few studies come in on relating COVID to nutritional patterns, and those that eat more plant predominant seem to have better outcomes. And one of the reasons why myself and Nivi Jaswal are doing, leading this study, Project GAIA. And so all the more reason why I think it's really important, and thank you for your support of our study. I know you have the link in your bio, but you touched on this. Why is it, given we have all this research that shows, nutrition is so important to prevent disease and support our immune system? Why is it that we don't see more support in the medical community around, and at the policy level, frankly, around diet and lifestyle?
Yeah, isn't that something, how amazing it is? The health authorities in the medical profession are followers, not leaders. They follow trends of the general population. They don't come up with, even though, because it's in the research, and we have, as you said, thousands of studies that are documenting the anti-cancer effects of food. Where isn't that even in the literature? But it shows you the masses are so addicted to processed foods and animal products, and they're so addicted to their diet that it hasn't yet penetrated society at a deep enough level to move public opinion, because public opinion has to drag the National Institute of Health and the political authorities and the medical profession along in this direction. So it's public opinion's got to change first, and we have to bring nutritional science to the masses, and it has to be reading, writing, and arithmetic and nutritional science taught in grade schools. When we start, so it's the job, as much as it's of teachers, educators, college professors, it's everybody. We have to, the training of teachers in America has to be trained. We have to start to make nutritional science be a major part of the curriculum across the modern world. And then we'll drag the fighting and medical profession, because they're not going to make money on keeping people well through nutrition. So there's no economic forces driving nutrition for the medical profession to lead that change. That's true. And public policy makers just go where the money is too. That's true, right? So it's got to be a tremendous public, an effort in public education, which the work you're doing, and obviously there's so many thousands of people trying to have the public be aware of this, in spite of the lack of information from the medical profession and public health authorities.
Right. Well, thank you so much. Just one last question. If all of our 212 people that are on this now and the people that are hopefully going to watch this later, if you could give people one recommendation, one thing to do to start their journey towards a healthier life, besides reading your books, which I recommend all of them, and I have all of them, what would that one piece of advice be?
The piece of advice would be lunch. That for lunch, have a large salad, not a 6-inch soup bowl, but a whole 9-inch serving bowl of salad vegetables with a healthy dressing, made from nuts and seeds, not oil and salt, but make a healthy nut and seed based dressing. So a healthy big salad, a bowl of vegetable bean soup, and a piece of fruit for lunch. Make your lunch be a super protective meal, because that's the meal you eat out of the house when there's food around you to tempt you. It's the major meal of the day where you want to take the time to get all these nutrients into you to sustain you, so you're not craving to eat foods throughout the rest of the day and the afternoon. So if the whole world could eat a healthy big salad, a bowl of vegetable bean soup, which you can make on the weekend with mushrooms and onions in it, and a piece of fruit for dessert, we'd see a radical change in healthcare and lifespans all over the world.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Fuhrman. Everyone, please pick up his most recent book and all of his books and check out his website and retreats and all the things. And I know that you have the link to the survey, the research survey Project GAIA, in your bio, and it's also in JIVINITI as well. And so thank you again for taking time out of your busy day to talk to us. We truly appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for the great work you're doing.
Thank
Good
you.
luck, everybody. Bye-bye.
All right. Take care.